The Anderson Tendulkar Trophy brought us jaffas. It brought us road pitches. It brought us some beautiful green grass. It gave us sixes. It gave us phenomenal strike rates. It gave us gritty, gutsy innings. What a better way to top it all off by doing some good old-fashioned player ratings. Yep, it's back to school time, guys. This is part 1. Now, I'm just going to warn you, my team gave some inputs, there were some debates, some of us would call it arguments, but it was tough, okay, it was tough. So some of the ratings might be a little bit tough, but a lot of it had to do for me with England and India, both in different occasions, were in winning positions, and then certain players just sort of threw it away, if we could put it like that. So let's start off with the wonder boy of India, Yashasvi Jaiswal. Guys, a mixed series for him, in my opinion. I think we've come to expect quite a bit of him. You know, he's done well in Australia. I think we all just expected a bit more of him, and some good innings. That one at the Oval was definitely a standout for me. Obviously the one in the first match, but then the moment Jofra Archer walked into the picture, the moment Ben Stokes started going around the wicket, you know, I thought that spelled some trouble for him. And let's not forget that almost, I think, 180 runs he cost India in that first test match with all of those drop catches. You know, India probably should have won that match. It would have been their series. So for me, it's going to start off very tough. Yashasvi gets a 6. His counterpart, Zak Crawley, a lot of expectation on him, I think, for, you know, the upcoming Ashes. You think of an Aiden Markram who does really, really well against Australia in Australian conditions because of the bounce, tall guys. But I think a bit of a disappointing series for Zak Crawley. I think Nasser Hussain said it as well. You don't always quite know what his identity is, or at least he doesn't. You know, he doesn't trust his defence enough. So a bit of a wobbly series, I think, for him as well. The last match, I think he dropped 2 catches as well. Not very impressive. Expected a bit more from him, especially on some of those flatter decks. So Zak gets a 5.5 from me. Now let's move on to Karun Nair. You know, cricket, give me one more chance. He's gotten quite a few in this series. A couple of good innings, you know, but yeah, I don't think good enough. I think he looked quite nervous. I think he wasn't always sure which way the ball was going to go. The fielding at times was a bit lackluster as well. I mean, he's also quite old, you know. The question is he going to get more chances in this squad? Let me know as well in the comments. We didn't speak enough about him, but what do you think of his future in this side? Unfortunately for me, you know, Zak Crawley, I thought, performed better than him, so I can't really give Karun too much of a high score. I wanted to give him a 4.5, but I feel like some of those innings, it looked okay. So also it's tough when you're being dropped and then you need to get back into the side. So I'm going to take that into account as well. But Karun gets a 5 for me, guys. Now let's go on to Brook. Gambhir, man of the series for England, which I thought was very ironic. I don't know, maybe thanks for, you know, blowing the match, the last match, some of you said. Look, for me, Harry Brook again, it's just some of the bigger moments in this series. He's a leader of this side now. He's the white ball captain, you know, the T20 captain. They just required a little bit more from him, to be a little bit more responsible, to take some agency. And, you know, obviously I think his role is to take the game forward, but I just feel like, you know, we saw one fantastic innings from him, 150 odd, with a strike rate of not what he's used to, but it proved to us that he can play those sorts of innings. So I just thought some of his wickets, you know, the way that he was running down the pitch, getting stumped, there was no need for that in that moment. So for me, he just didn't play the situation well enough. And then obviously the last match, you know, absolutely blew it there for England. Like I said, you give Siraj a door, it's a barnyard door, it's over, it's done. And the momentum completely shifted. And unfortunately, that was his fault. But expect a lot of him in Australia. You know, hopefully it could be a good tour for him. But 7.5 for me for Harry Brook. Now on to the one that I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of crap for. But let's move on to the captains. Shubman Gill. Let's start with India's hero there of this series, India's future. look guys, if it was based on batting alone, I would be giving him a 9. But I also think it's worth noting that in London, Shubman didn't really make any big scores. I think that run out was it was his fault, but he actually looked really, really good in that first innings at the Oval. It's a good thing India still won that match, but on the two spicier decks, he didn't really come to the party that much. A lot of people call him a flat track bully. I feel like there were signs of him showing that he can actually bat in difficult conditions. His captaincy, that ball change, is still something that a lot of people talk about. Sometimes he's not proactive enough in the field. He's young, he's new. I think already, like what he's been saying in the press, he doesn't take it to heart. I think he understands that people are going to be talking about you. You're the Test captain of India. You think of the names that, have been the Test captain of India, you're going to get it, and he seems to be ready for it. So good job for him, that he's not being moany and complainy. He understands what this is about. So for me, I think his captaincy, he needs to get some points docked for that. If it was based on batting alone, I would give him a 9. Also, he didn't always pack the slip cordons enough for me. But he'll learn, and with time, he'll get more confident to, I think, take some more risks. But all in all, I think, I'm going to give him an 8. Now on to Ben Stokes. Didn't really come to the party that's early on in the series. I think everybody wasn't quite sure what to expect of Ben. Coming back, haven't played for a while, hasn't really bowled, etc. So a slow start for him. Otherwise, I also feel like his scores would have been higher. Captaincy in the first test match was quite brilliant. I also thought a lot of people criticized him, saying, why the hell would you want to chase? India, you know what I'm saying? We all knew that match was 85% of the 90% actually of the match belonged to India. But then in the second match, sometimes I just feel like he sticks too much to his I want to chase theory. And that's not always supposed to happen in Test cricket, right? You can't just be like, we don't care about conditions, we're going to chase. So I feel like in the second match, that really kicked him in the butt a little bit, because you gave India the opportunity to bat, and did they bloody bat? That's the one where Shubman Gill scored at Edgbaston, 259 or something, 269 actually. So maybe that one not so great. His batting then later on really, really came to the party. Aggressive captaincy as well, tough, gritty innings by Ben Stokes. And then obviously big decision to not go with Carse and then go with Archer that morning, right, at Lord's. And then Archer got rid of Punt, which for everybody was the key wicket. So some really gutsy, risky, but that comes with experience, right? So, it makes sense. And then obviously his bowling was phenomenal. He was like England's best bowler. So for me, Ben, taking all of those things into account, we got to give the man an 8.5. Now let's jump to a bowler real quick here, Akash. Some great outings, and then some outings that were, he was fantastic at Edgbaston on a flat track. For him to be able to get those wickets the way that he got those wickets, I thought was phenomenal. But then we go to Lord's and things just sort of fell flat. And for some bowlers, here's the word of the series, the slope. For some bowlers, the slope is really off-putting. It can screw with the mental aspect of being a bowler, because it's very uncomfortable, right, guys? It's not always easy for us to see, especially from the television. You can't see it, but that slope is a slope and a half. So I felt like he really struggled there. His batting wasn't always good, but then came that 66, which we said it, early on in that test match. The moment that happened, we all knew that was going to be match defining, and it was. Imagine you take those runs away, England would have won, right? So that was fantastic. But again, his bowling suffered for me a little bit. So a bit inconsistent there with the ball, but I still think he should get a solid 7. Jamie Smith, wow. So many great innings as well from him. I thought his keeping was great for the most part. Keeping is tough in England. It's one of the toughest places, if not the toughest places to be a keeper. Because with conditions, invariable bounce at times, I thought he was great. And the conditions were so different from place to place. So for me, His keeping was great. His batting was great. But then in the last test match, for me, I was kind of looking at him to take England over the line when all of the chaos sort of happened, and he just didn't look very comfortable. So this one might be a little bit harsh. You know, he also made a fantastic 188 or something at a strike rate of 90, also at Edgbaston. That was phenomenal. I would have given him an 8 if it's just not for this last match, but I'm going to give him a solid 7.5. But this one maybe I'm doubting a bit, but 7.5 for Jamie Smith. Now let's go to Thakur. I mean, I just feel like you guys can describe it for me. Very disappointing. There was also this one fielding moment in the first match where Jadeja was looking very potent, and then he just sort of like fell on the ground and he didn't run after the ball. The ball wasn't going to the boundary. I mean, that just summed up his performance in this series. I'm just going to give him a straight 4, and I think even giving him a 4 is nice, because maybe there were opportunities to use him a bit better early on when there was some swing and etc. And then Shubman didn't really count on him. And then, so maybe that also plays a part, but very disappointing from Thakur. Not Lord this series. Nitish Kumar Reddy. Yeah, tough to come in and out and then be injured. He didn't really make such a big impact for me, guys. I'm going to be honest. You know, you're chosen as an all-rounder, which means that something is expected from you from the bat. Nothing really happened there from the bat. India's fast bowling all-rounders, yeah, I mean, that's, if you're going to be intent on picking one. I heard Sunny G said that Hardik Pandya must come into Test cricket, which is interesting. So he must also think that the fast bowling all-rounder, it's not really looking convincing to me. I thought with the ball he was good. He took a couple of good wickets, but the fielding was also a bit of a So that's your job as an all-rounder, right? You really got to bring it with all 3 of those categories. He's going to get a 5 for me, guys. Now we're going to Boom Boom. I know you're going to hate me for this one as well, but look, I'm going to somewhat blame management for this. I just thought to myself, I don't think they picked him for the right conditions, but then again, conditions were so different every single match that makes it difficult. But I just feel like they should have looked at Manchester and they should have been like, you know, the stats and everything points to no results at this ground. So if it kind of already, if everything is pointing towards, you know, probably not going to get a result here, should you not have saved him for the Oval? I mean, yeah, you still won the Oval, but it was very touch and go. I think Bumrah would have gotten a 5 at the Oval. That would have pushed up his scores. He wasn't really that good at Manchester. We have to take into account that India didn't win any matches with him in there. I don't think that's entirely his fault. But I have to say one thing though. If South Africa had to do this with Rabada, play a match, rest a match, play it. You know, Rabada and Bumrah are rhythm bowlers. Isn't that going to make them lose momentum, rhythm? You know, it's the whole thing about Test series. We saw Ben Stokes, for example, getting better and better and better with each match. So I'm going to give Bumrah an 8. I do want to give him a 7.5. I'm actually changing my mind right here. I actually want to give him a 7.5. But let's just give him an 8. Because that stand with Jadeja was also fantastic. So I forgot about that. We can up his score for that. But a bit disappointing for Bumrah, I think, because we kind of like expect it here, but then it's here. Let's go to Brydon Carse. A lot of potential, but he seems to be somebody who's injury prone. Great with the bat. That 150 that he got was really, really, I think it was at Lord's, it was very, very dependent. That was like the Akash 66. Then his bowling was good, but then it wasn't really that great. You know, he had moments where he had rhythm, then he didn't have rhythm. When he was good, he was really good. When he wasn't good, you know what I'm saying here. Then that spell at Lord's as well. At Lord's, he had a fantastic match. If it was just based on Lord's, I'd give him an 8. Because I thought he was amazing in that match. But then some of the other matches, I just think he was a little bit disappointing for me with the bat and the ball. I'm going to give him a 6.5, guys. And then finally, Prasidh Krishna. This one as well. I think a lot of people are going to be biased because of his last match. But we can't just base everything on his last match. I thought his first 2 matches were not good. It's not good, guys. It was all over the place. He's got the highest economy rate. I think he broke some records. If it was based on that, those performances probably should be getting a 4. But because of how well he played at the Oval, used conditions, used the bounce. See, that's where India need to play him. They need to play him on pitches that offer bounce. When pitchers don't do that, I think he's going to struggle. So give me your opinion on what you think of that. But I think because of the last match, we're going to up his rating to a 6. But we need to, this is for the whole series. It's not just for one match. But yeah, definitely potential for him in places like South Africa. You know, that would be very interesting to see him. But so that's my part 1. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please, let's debate about this. Yeah, stay tuned for part 2, releasing that on Friday.